Welcome to Tyrompers No Limit Podcast. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? Thank you so much for tuning in to Tyrompers No Limit Podcast. This is episode number 48. We got a great man on today. This is a man that, as a hero, served our country well. This is a man that I love, that every interaction on Twitter I've ever had with this guy, I remember commenting a few months in, dude, you just always leave me feeling better, brother. And I see that on the timeline constantly. This is a man that just, I really look up to a lot. Really nice dude. And I can't wait to get to know his story a little bit more. My brother, Patrick, welcome to the pod. Patrick, how you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Doing wonderful, man. Well, thanks for joining us today, brother. Well, for anybody who might not know a little bit about you, man, you just kind of want to give us your backstory, a little bit who you are, what you're about.
All right, then. Let's see. My name is Patrick Colliano. I was born in Bennington, Vermont in 1965, which makes me 57 next month.
And don't look it, man.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. You're a liar, but I appreciate it. In any case, let's see. What's extraordinary about me? Well, I'm the youngest, and my mother had 9 children. I am the youngest.
Wow.
Let's see. I went to high school at an Episcopalian boarding school in upstate New York, and that's really where I first became exposed to the Bible. I used to do readings in church, and we used the New English version of the Bible. It was really, really poetic. It got a little silly, though, I think, in places like, well, for example, when Rachel stole her Uncle Laban's household gods, and then she sat on them to keep him from finding them, she pretended she was having her monthly cycle so that she wouldn't have to get up. So she said, "The common lot of woman is upon me." That's a really poetic way of putting it. I always like the New English Bible for that reason. But let's see. After high school, I went to college in Johnson State, Vermont, where I majored in theater, and went to graduate school in Orono, Maine. And then I joined the Army from 1990 to 1994 and served during Desert Storm.
Thank you so much for your service, brother. Appreciate it, man.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that too. And then after I got out, I became a licensed massage therapist. I still do plays occasionally. My most recent one was a couple of years ago. I was in Jekyll and Hyde. And well, that's pretty much it. I came into Twitter and I joined the fitness community.
Yeah, now I see you at the gym many times a week.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yep, 7 days a week I'm there.
I love that, man. So, dude, a little back up, man. I guess, you know, when you found the Bible and that version that kind of hit you, was faith always kind of the center part of your life then? Is that something that you just naturally gravitated toward? Or did you kind of have a period of your life too where you kind of maybe distance yourself from God? Or what's been your faith journey, Patrick?
Well, religion was not in my upbringing, not at all. My father, I don't want to disparage him too much. He died when I was 18. And I didn't know him very well, but my mother divorced him before I even started school. He had a very heavy drinking problem. He was a very violent, very angry drunk. And anyhow, he was Catholic, but religion was never stressed. As a matter of fact, I mean, I know not everybody believes in infant baptism, but I wasn't baptized until I was 10. Until after my father was out of the picture. Apparently, he had something against that. And so my mother took me to a Methodist church. But along with my one brother and one sister. See, it was a second marriage for both my parents. So my mother's first 6 kids were from her first husband. And then she married my father after her first husband committed suicide. And then they had the 3 of us, and I am last.
So you're the youngest of 9, man. And coming up, I'm sure that was interesting. I was the exact opposite of you, Patrick, actually. My parents were Christian, and it's not really a thing to do infant baptism, but my grandfather was really, really Catholic. So I think that the rumor is he stole me and got me infant baptized. So I've been baptized 3 times in my life, actually, man. So I've got a super filled, man.
So like I said, when I went to the Episcopalian boarding school, which is called Hoosac School in Hoosick, New York, that's when I first had my exposure to the Bible.
And so was it something instant that just kind of hit you, like a deep personal faith that you kind of thought would always kind of guide you, or what was kind of your journey behind that then?
was actually pretty gradual.
Mm.
Excuse me.
By the time then, I guess you went off to like Desert Storm and joined the Army. Was faith a pretty big part of your life, or not quite yet?
I would say so. Yeah, it was on my religion was on my dog tag. So
okay, gotcha, man. And so, what can I ask Patrick too? What led to that decision to join the Army after theater school and you graduate college? What was behind that decision?
Well, I've always felt my father was very much against the military. I mean, because he was a World War II veteran. That's where he acquired his drinking habit. One of the stories that I heard about him, and I was very surprised to hear this, but he was a World War II vet, and he was actually sent into testing areas after they dropped nuclear bombs on them. I mean, like immediately after. And when I hear that story, it's like, it's amazing how little they knew about what radiation does to people back then. Because they were playing with it, creating weapons of wholesale destruction, and they don't even know what it does.
That's wild, man.
And he died a month after my 18th birthday. Like I said, I hate to say it, but I didn't feel much of anything. I just didn't know.
Do you think probably a lot of that had to do with the fact that, I mean, maybe going to war, seeing some of those things he did, and then bringing back some of that trauma too? Maybe he just never was able to fully kind of heal past that.
I would say so.
Yeah. I think that's typical of a lot of men from that generation who served that I've kind of gotten to know, a lot of the sons of the dads who came back, things like that. And that's a pretty common theme where it's just got to be so hard to process that, especially if, I think it's one thing if, there's like a Jocko Willink, right? Who from the time that you read his books and like the time he's 6, he wants to be a Navy SEAL and he wants to go command and lead. But when World War II happened, or when some of these other wars happened, dude, these guys were just auto mechanics, farmers, who they didn't necessarily dream of going. And then you go over and you see some of those, just the most horrific things you can probably ever see. It's probably really hard to unsee that when you come back and sort of live a normal life. Right. And I don't know. I always think that our country should do a lot more on the healing side for our troops. It's the veteran suicide is a big problem, and there's not much being done about that. Right. And, I don't know. I've seen you post several times on that. Always try and bring awareness to that with any kind of platform I'd have too. And I would say that if we can pay these guys to go over there and defend our country and our freedom, it would be sure nice to make sure they get the proper treatments when they get back. Right.
Well, as a matter of fact, my apartment is a facility for disabled vets. That's where I live.
Oh man, I didn't know that.
It's not bad. It's actually pretty decent. We just have efficiency apartments here.
So are a lot of your buddies then, do you go to the gym with them quite a bit too? And a lot of the guys that you talk to, kind of similar mindset, similar background, that kind of thing?
I wish. Some do, some are very conscientious. Some of them, a lot of them have physical injuries that they're contending with and a lot of them they're into self-medication.
Yeah. Have you ever had a chance to talk to any of them or try and help them or invite them to the gym or invite them for walks or anything like that? Because I know you're a real active guy. You're out you said 7 days a week you're at the gym. I don't know how you do that.
Don't you?
You know what, man? I do something active every day. I wouldn't say I go to the gym. I didn't go to the gym today, actually. I took a 3 or 4 mile walk in the morning with my wife and then did like 45 minutes in the garage, little pull-ups and push-ups and circuits and stuff like that. But I do some kind of form of workout every day.
But well, actually, I do work out. I do work out twice a day for the Hard 75 Challenge. But
Nice.
Sometimes when I go to the gym, it's just to use the mirror because I'm using the same mirror for my progress pics.
So you go in and snap the pic, man. That's fun.
Yes.
How many days in are you, Patrick?
32, I think.
Attaboy. Nice, man. Yeah, I'm 58, I think, today. So I'm getting there.
Oh, great.
Yeah, it's my body feels pretty beat up. How does yours feel? I'm starting to get shin splints now. Starting to feel like pretty beat up, to be honest.
Really, I had those ones. The best way to take stairs when you have that condition is to do it backwards.
Go at them backwards. That's a good tip.
Just walk up and down the stairs backwards. Obviously, you got to use the handrail and guide yourself, but it's much because I just remember the stairs when I had shin splints. They are brutal.
Yeah, they are
so much.
And then the thing is, I got 3 young kids, man. So I always got one of the kids in my arms. I feel like so I got an extra 30-pound to 50-pound weight vest. I feel like on me all the time. So that probably doesn't help the shin splints either, man. But it's a fun thing though, man. Well, living in the community you live, you're in Florida, right?
Yes.
So it's pretty nice out. Do you get outside quite a bit, or what's kind of your, you hit the gym every day, it sounds like, and then how do you occupy the rest of your time? What kinds of other things are you into, man?
Well, my gym is 45 minutes away by bicycle, so that's like one of my 45 workouts.
Good for you, man. You bike there every day? That's super cool, man. What if it's raining? What do you do if it's raining?
Wait 10 minutes and it goes away.
That's Florida, man.
This is the monsoon season in Florida. It's kind of funny because like once a day during this time of year, we'll have like a thunderstorm that's like Armageddon. I mean, sometimes it'll rain so hard the streets turn into rivers. I mean, I've actually been caught driving like on the street and I can't even see the road because it's just dirty water pouring, just flowing.
That's crazy. Have you ever gone to the gym, like bike to the gym, then you have like a really good workout and then you're getting ready to leave, but it's still pouring. And so you just go back in and keep working out?
Well, fortunately my gym is right next to the mall. So if happens, I can just do some mall walking.
Okay. Gotcha. That's a nice little thing, man. That's cool. I like that. And so when did you come on Twitter and kind of talk about some of your experiences there, man? Because you're such a light on Twitter. I always see you on like Jerry Texera's timeline and you're just kind of popping in all over, just like encouraging everyone, giving good vibes, man. So when did you kind of get into that, man?
Believe it or not, I first got into Twitter too because I was a supporter of one of the atheists. It's not that I kind of think of atheists really as our friends, as Christians, because they tell us what's wrong with us. Because a lot of times I find myself thinking, the way some people witness, I don't blame people for being atheists. Because a lot of people, their best argument is known as argument ad factum, which means argument by the cudgel, by the staff. You beat people with it. In other words, you're arguing by threat. If you don't believe as I do, you're going to burn in hell.
Yeah.
So that's not the way to win people to Christianity.
Yeah, I definitely agree, man. And Patrick, it's funny you said that because just 2 nights ago, I walked the Vegas Strip. Every now and then, we're 30 minutes away or so, and I'll meet a buddy, and we'll just usually do this. It's like an 8-mile walk, but we kind of walk the whole strip down and back. And almost every time I'm there, there's the same guy standing there with a sign that says, "You're gonna burn in hell," and he has a megaphone, a bullhorn, and he's like shouting at people as they walk by, and like. I just always think like, dude, you're doing this way wrong. Like not one I've never seen one person stop and be like, "Oh, tell me more about it." Like they're just going to shun away from him. Right. Like that's not the way to do it.
Yeah. You're telling people God is a monster. Basically.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So what do you think is a better approach to it, man? Or what are you trying to do?
This brings to mind, what's the one sin that Jesus preached about more than any other? What do you think it is?
Pride.
Close. The one sin that Jesus preached about more than any other is self-righteousness. You can think about it, it's all over the place. Matthew 7:1, judge not that you shall not be judged. Luke 15:11-32, that's the parable of the prodigal son. Think of the older son.
Yeah.
Those who wanted to stone the woman taken in adultery in John 8:1-11. The parable of the publican and the Pharisee. Basically, when I was doing readings for my church, I had to pick a topic and read pick my own biblical citations about it. I chose self-righteousness. It's easy. Just pick up a concordance and look up the word Pharisee. You'll find it. You'll find them. 9 times out of 10, if there's a Pharisee involved, there's self-righteousness involved. That was their defining characteristic.
Yeah, it's the kind of, fortunately or unfortunately, I kind of feel like I grew up in the church too, but I had a pretty long season, I think, where I turned my back on God and didn't really want much to do with church or anything like that. And then I got to a point where I surrendered fully and, got on my knees and said, okay, I'm done captaining my own shit. But it kind of allows me to not judge anyone because I feel like I've done worse things than anyone out there. And I basically tried everything to make myself happy. And, so I feel like I'm never in a place where I can judge and say, oh, I can't believe they're doing that. Cause I feel like there was a season in my life where I probably tried that too, and so I don't know. I think there is something to meeting people where they're at. Right. And just kind of, hey, we're all human beings. We're all trying the best we can to figure this out and just trying to meet people where they are. And, Zach Hommel's one of my favorite people on Twitter.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Love
And
that
it's,
guy.
he tells me all the time, like, dude, I don't really try and bring my friends to Jesus. I just show Jesus by the way I live. And my friends usually end up at some point or a hard part in their life, approach me with it and ask a bunch of questions. And, I know just a couple of weeks ago, he baptized like 7 of his buddies, at a conference. And to me, that's the way to do it is you live a certain way and you kind of, you look for those opportunities to kind of share here and there, but you don't go shouting at people. Right.
Exactly. But I think what you did, falling away and then coming back, I think it's good because now you've chosen it for yourself. It's not something that you just do because you were brought up with it.
Yeah.
You decided to look another way and then you came back. So it's your choice then.
I agree with that, man. I think about it as a dad a lot too, where, my daughter's read through, she's 7, but I'm pretty sure we've read through the entire children's Bible. I would guess 10 or 12 times. Like she knows I can't tell her a story probably from the Bible that she doesn't know. But I do think about that a lot. I want her to have her own faith. I don't want it to just be because me and my wife have faith. I want it to be hers, and same with my little boys when they get older too. And so you start to think about that, you want it to be personal. So how do you recommend people go about searching for that personal faith and make sure it's theirs?
I recommend it. Wow. That's rough. Personally, I would recommend you. I would recommend they talk to you.
I appreciate that, man.
Seriously, if somebody wanted to find the way that Christians should live their lives, being upbeat, positive, encouraging, I would say, there's Tyler. Go talk.
Yeah, you haven't seen me when I'm getting woken up at 2 a.m. though by all the kids around here, man. But no, I do think that there's a big thing, and I'd like your take on this, Patrick, because I know we talked a little bit about this maybe on Twitter, but I do see a lot of Christians maybe, again, I don't judge anybody for where they're at, but maybe living their life kind of afraid, kind of, there's a lot of, let's be honest, there's a lot of scary things in the world, right? There's a lot of, if you follow politics, if you follow the media, if you follow a lot of the news stories, there's 1,000 reasons to be afraid every day, right? There's wars and rumors of wars and pandemics and, these nuts people that talking about a great reset. There's a million reasons you could be afraid, but I kind of think ultimately for me, what I get to is, well, the battle's already won, right? Like I know where I'm going to be in 200 years. So all this journey, it's just kind of up to me every day to wake up and make a choice to be happy, be positive, try and live like Jesus, try and show others that way. And then, hey man, we're all dead on a long enough time scale, right? I know where I'm going after this. So I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I was thinking about, what you were saying about how everybody's so fearful of all these things that are supposedly happening, that are going to happen. I used to worry about that myself too. But when Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed in Genesis 19, Lot was allowed to escape. There is deliverance for those who are on the right side. You're not going to be destroyed in the fallout. So whatever happens, there is a deliverance for God's people at hand.
Yeah. And so what would you say to anybody listening that maybe doesn't identify as one of God's people? Do they have things to be afraid of then, I guess, is a good question, Because I always struggle with that a little bit. Like I know where my anchor comes when my whole life is falling apart. If I got sick kids, if I'm sick, if I, all these things, I can always kind of rest in that peace,
I think people who know of a higher good who at least follow the leadings of goodness. I think they do know God. even if they don't classify him that way. I mean, the Bible says God is love. Can you act unselfishly? Can you remember the parable of the sheep and the goats? When Jesus said to the sheep, you visited me when I was in prison, you fed me when I was hungry, that sort of thing. And they said, when did we do that? And he says, if you've done it for your fellow man, you've done it for me.
Yeah.
I'm reminded of just how really important the names and how we think of God himself really pales in significance to how we act. There was a story in the Babylonian Talmud of two rabbis. One was Shammai, the other was Hillel. It was in the 1st century before Common Era, 1st century BC. A Gentile approached Shammai and said, I will convert to Judaism if you can teach me all the Torah while I stand on one foot. In other words, condense it. You have the length of time I can stay balanced on one foot to tell me the entire Torah. And Shammai, perceiving probably correctly that he was being made fun of, it says that he took something called the builder's cubit, which I guess is some kind of measuring stick, and chased him away. So the tradition of beating students with rulers just goes back a long ways. And he went to Hillel and made the same challenge. Teach me all the Torah while I stand on one foot. Hillel decided, challenge accepted. Whatever is hateful to you, do not do to your neighbor. That's it. That's the whole of the Torah. The rest is commentary. Go and study it.
Wow. That's
notice he didn't mention God. It was basically do unto others.
Yeah, and you alluded to the point earlier, and I think that's what, if anybody listens to this, I always try and tell people this. It's the most selfish thing I do every day, being kind to everyone I interact with. It makes me feel good. I know that it gives them a bit. When I see a random person on the street and I tell them, man, I love seeing you out here with your kids, and man, I see you out here all the time. You're such a great dad. You're this, or I see, just a lady at the checkout counter. I try and chat her up and make her day. I feel better too. I know that I'm making them feel better by just being nice, by holding the door, by being kind, but it also makes me feel good too. And I think life is rigged beautifully in that way where, man, anytime I'm feeling like not great, my first thought is, okay, how can I help somebody else? How can I go bless somebody else? How can I be kind to somebody else? And then to do just like this beautiful cyclical thing that makes you want to do it more, right? Because it makes you feel better too. It's almost hard or impossible to do a completely selfless act, I think.
You're right. It is. I understand exactly what you mean.
Do you take that approach on Twitter, Patrick? Because that's what I do too. Even when people fire hate at me, I just try and go nice at them, and then there is a certain line where I'm going to block you, of course, if you say, racist things or really hateful things or whatever, but I always just try and be kind. And hey, brother, I know you're probably in a hurting place to say something like this, so I hope you end up having a better day, or I've even shot people that have shot me really negative things. Like I'll shoot them a DM and just say, hey man, I just want you to know, life's really good and it can be better. And, I hope your day turns around, man. I don't know, but it just, that's my strategy to go about it. Is that kind of yours too? Cause I see you on Twitter doing the same thing every day.
I try sometimes, but sometimes I fail. Other times I just, I get frustrated a lot. And I'm not always as kind as I should be. I admit that.
We're humans, man. I definitely have to take days off. I take days off. There's certain days on Twitter where I'm like, all right, you people got me. I'm literally done with my phone for the next 12 hours. I'll be on tomorrow. Some days the hate just pours in where you can just make a simple comment like, it's a great day. I'm grateful to be outside. And then the people comment, start yelling it's not a great day, this and that.
Well, if you need to talk, you've got my number.
Yeah, I appreciate that, brother. Yeah, some days, man, I think it is healthy to just unplug too, right? Like you're not going to make everybody happy. And I don't think that's my goal in sharing. I don't think that should be our goal, but I think it's just to show a better way to live and not even a better way to live, just a more peaceful way. You don't need to wake up and yell at strangers every day.
The the thing about it is like getting back to the guy who was yelling at strangers through a bullhorn that you were talking about. I keep wondering, I mean, how can God hold the how can God hold it against a non-believer if that's all he hears what God is?
Mm.
He's going to send you to hell, if you don't do this. And I mean, how do you blame people for not being turned on by that? How do you blame people for being turned off? When that's their only exposure to God.
Yeah, one of my first mentors and wisest guy. I've listened to 7 of his sermons 7 days in a row now. Eddie Lowen, just great man, great preacher, and he's the one that kind of helped me take my first step back towards God in my late 20s, and really been there through a lot of my hard times. Just a great guy, and I remember asking him some of those questions like, will God hold it against people who have never heard or maybe only had bad experiences in the church and turned away and things like that? And he just kind of said, that's not for me I'm not God, and so people ask me this stuff all the time. Why does God let suffering? Why does this happen, this or that? And I just kind of always say, hey man, I have a specific mission in this world. I feel like God's kind of laid it on my heart to go the path that I'm going, to love everybody around me, my family, my friends, even my enemies, people that don't like me. I'm going to keep loving on everybody, rooting for everybody to do well. And all those other big things, man, I kind of feel like I'm like less than an ant to God, so I don't need to know what he's thinking, man. It's pretty silly or arrogant for me to think I know what he's thinking. So, if he created the universe, I'm gonna let him sort all those things out afterwards. I'm just gonna try and wake up every day and live a good life, kind of submit to him.
Do you have a favorite story in the Bible?
Yeah, a lot of them, man. I think the character the favorite story number one is Jesus, the man at the well. This one where the guy's been paralyzed, I think for 37 years, 38 years, something like that.
Yes, 38 years.
Yeah.
The Bible says that an angel came in and troubled the water of the pool. The first person that gets in,
Yes,
after the angel was healed.
Yes, yeah. And so Jesus walks up to him and says, "Do you want to be healed?" And my favorite part of that story is what the guy says next. He says, "You don't understand. All the people out there, I've been paralyzed. No one helps." He gives him like 5 excuses. And Jesus says, "I'm not talking about anybody else. Do you want to be healed?" And that's it. And I think about that a lot when that outside noise, those distractions, like Jesus is, in my opinion, just knocking on everybody's heart, right? And he's not asking about what other people are doing, what your mom's doing, what their faith looks like, what all the other things in the world. He's just asking you, do you want to be healed? Do you want to be saved? And so I've always really resonated with that story a lot, man. That's probably my favorite scripture and passage. How about you?
I understand what you're saying. He was very closed-minded because the first thing he says is, I have no one to put me in the pool when the water's troubled. But while I'm coming, somebody else gets in before me.
Yeah.
It's like he has an excuse for not being healed. It's like he only has like one way. He only sees one way that he can be healed.
Yeah.
To get in that pool and nobody's helping him. Do it.
Yeah. And I often think about that even as like a coach and as I'm helping people, and I want to motivate certain people to maybe it's lose weight, have better marriage, more communication, eat better, whatever that is, right? Their habits. But it's up to them. And I say that on the first call all the time. Hey, do you want to get better? Where do you want to be a year from now? Because every decision you make is going to take you closer or farther from that. I think we can kind of parallel a lot of the things we do on this earth to that one powerful kind of scripture and message.
But you asked me what my favorite was. I said, it changes from time to time, but I would say right now it's the parable of the prodigal son. For the longest time, I had so much trouble with that story because I always felt the elder son had a valid complaint. He said that I never strayed from your commandments. I always did everything you said to his father. I never once disobeyed you, and you never gave me a kid that I might have a party with my friends. Maybe go, in other words, not a child. I always felt that his complaint was valid. It's like the son has taken away his living, as the older son says, he's devoured your living with harlots. And when he comes home, you kill the fatted calf and have a party for him. I never once disobeyed you, and you're not throwing any parties for me. And For the longest time, I felt like this was a valid argument. I mean, what's the payoff for it? I mean, it's fine that you can fall away and then come back and get a reward, but where's the reward for consistency?
Mm.
But I was reading it in one of my Bible lessons, and I assigned one other scripture with that second half of the story. About the older son, and it was Matthew 7:1. Judge not, that ye be not judged.
Mm.
Suddenly, ding! I understood it. He was not being faithful. He was not being consistent. He was being self-righteous.
Mm.
You see, that story, Jesus never called that the parable of the prodigal son. He didn't say, this is the parable of the prodigal son. That's something that we named it. That's what something tradition called it. But it's not about a prodigal son who thinks that he can do without his father's grace and then thinks he's no longer worthy of it. It's not about a self-righteous elder son who thinks that you must earn your father's grace and that some are worthy, others aren't. It's about a loving father who is gracious. That's what the parable is about. Not about a prodigal son, not about the older son. It's about a loving father.
Mm. Yeah, it's powerful. I like that. There's so many different angles I mean, the parables Jesus told, I always tell people that even if you don't believe Jesus is divine, just study his life, man. Study his words. It's crazy when I'm pretty addicted to just reading the gospels and studying his life. I mean, it's amazing, that man's life,
I wanted to ask you too, how is your exploration into politics going?
It's interesting, man. I did that one video on YouTube, and there's just so much corruption, right? And I mean, it can drive you a little bit insane once you start to see it. But I just go back to, I'm going to guard my peace at everything, and I dabble a little bit here and there, and I feel like I have my stances that I'm all for freedom. I'm all for free speech. And I feel like, sometimes when some of that stuff's threatened, perhaps it can be a scary thing. There's a few scary things that are going on now. But again, I go back to my anchor, my rock. That I always go back to I don't know, this fear and panic. There's so many people that, I remember when Obama got elected in 2008 and everybody started shouting, they're going to take your guns. And then when Trump got elected in 2016, we're going to go to nuclear war. And then when Biden it's like, they sell you this fear no matter who's in charge, no matter what regime is in there. I don't know. So at the end of the day, I think you just got to focus on what you can control and kind of let go of that other stuff,
Because honestly, when I heard that you were doing this, I mean, if that's what you feel led to do, then by all means do it. But it's just that I always come to you. I mean, you're this real spread of positivity, and I always want you in my life. But it's just like, I feel like if you're going to visit domestic swine in their native element, you're going to get up again covered in mud and pig feces. And this is what you're doing. It's just like, I feel like I should tell you to be careful. This could be a threat to your positivity. When you see how selfish and narcissistic, how little regard these people have for everyone else. It's like, hey, I'm lining my pocket.
That's kind of what I found, man, in the digging I did, is that to get to a certain level, I think, and it's, if you just poll people and you ask, why do they feel like, politicians, do you trust them? I think it's like 93% of people say no across the board, and the other 7% are probably the politicians that they ask. But, well, for instance, like Congress just passed a law, right, that they enacted another, I forget the number, 70-some thousand IRS agents to audit a bunch of the population and track what they're doing. They're also arming them. But they exempted themselves, so Congress cannot be audited. Congress cannot be questioned. They can't be talked about their insider trading. So it's that's the thing. It's a lot of rules for thee, but not for me type thing. And I think that bothers me a little bit. But again, I go back to the end of the day. Every day I get to wake up in a warm home with a shower, with a car, with a toilet, with a family that loves me. I just got too much good, to be honest, to really focus on that. So I'll dabble from time to time, maybe do a little investigation video a couple times a year or something, and see what comes out. But at the end of the day, man, I'm going to control what I can control and not really get so in depth into that stuff, that I'll be honest, man, less than 1% of my attention ever goes to any of that stuff.
You familiar with Jotham's parable of the trees?
I'm not.
In the book of Judges, see, Jesus wasn't the only one who told parables, but in the book of Judges, I think it's the 7th chapter, after Gideon had delivered Israel and he fell into idolatry, But his sons, and he had 70 of them. So a lot of concubines, a lot of wives. But in any case, Abimelech, one of his sons with a slave woman, decided, like, why should we, why should all this honor be shared among 70 sons? Why should we be considered judges? Why don't we just have one? So he killed all his brothers, all 70 of them, except the youngest, Jotham. Jotham got away, and he told a story, a parable. And he said, the tree set out to appoint a ruler over them. They first went to the olive tree, and the olive tree said, I have my oil that I produce, which serves God and man. Should I leave that and become ruler of the trees? And so they went to the fig tree, who says, I produce good fruit that people love. Should I leave this office and rule over the trees? And so they went to the grapevine, and the grapevine says, I produce wine in the service of God and man. I should leave this office and become ruler of the trees. So lastly, they went to the bramble, the thorn bush, which is good for nothing. And well, he accepts the office. And Jotham says, if you did, good service to my father Gideon, who delivered you by killing his sons and making Abimelech, who would have killed his brothers, the king, then may you be happy with him, and may God be happy with you. But the point I get from that story is that those who seek political office are the last ones that should have it. The one who took the office, the one who decided to rule over the trees, is good for nothing. Bramble is too low. It doesn't provide shade. It produces nothing, and its wood is too brittle to be used for anything. It's good for nothing except burning.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of people that go into politics, again, how do you go in with a $3 million net worth and serve the public on $195,000 salary, and then 20 years later you're worth $350 million? That just doesn't make sense, and no one's allowed to ask questions about it. I kind of think that we should have an IQ test, and then it should be like jury duty. If your IQ is above a certain amount, you're in a big lottery, and if you get called, you go for public elect, you go serve for 4, 6, or 8 years. You do your duty. It's not a high-paying job. There's no kickbacks. You're just serving your fellow constituents, and then you're done with it.
I think it's a good idea, and I thought the same thing. Also, I would include a civics exam.
Yeah, something like that. You need to. That's a good one too, man. But
you have to know how the law works.
Yeah, I agree with that. I could get on board with that too, man. Well, dude, Patrick, I could probably chat with you about various topics. Probably for a long time. We'll have to have you back on here at some point, man. But you're one of my favorite people on earth, man. I'm really grateful for you. I'm thankful that, you're on Twitter brightening people's days. You're brightening everybody's day. I feel like you come across. And, thanks again for your service, brother, and the chat. I get to take my kids to a dance class now here in 3 minutes, so I'm going to have to hop off.
Okay. All right, then. It's good. Looking forward to watching this.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Any last words you want to tell the people out there? Anybody listening, man?
No, not really. I think we've covered it all. It was a really good discussion. I was glad we got to do this.
Yeah.
I don't get it. Usually when I'm on these things, I'm visiting with atheists, so I don't get a chance to talk about the scriptures. So it was actually good. I feel like I got a lot from you.
Well, mutual, man. I always leave every conversation with you better, man. I think I told you that early on Twitter. I'm like, Patrick, every time we have a conversation, I feel better, brother. And you're like, yeah, I get that a lot.
This is true. Yeah, JT tells me that a lot.
Yeah, another great guy. Shout out to Jerry Texera. I need to get him on here at some point.
Okay. Yes, that'd be a good idea. We're talking about Jerry Texera. That's on at Twitter at JerryTexeira. And if you are into fitness and you don't feel like joining a gym, whether it's expense or whether it's self-consciousness or whether you would just rather do it at home, he's got you covered. He teaches body weight exercises. He teaches you how to get in shape using the weight of your own body. He's
a beast too, man. Absolute beast.
Yes,
well,
he is.
I'm gonna link Patrick's Twitter info below too. Give this man a follow. He'll brighten your day. He'll brighten your timeline too, man. So I appreciate you very much, brother. Let's everybody go have the greatest day of your life. Bless everybody around you. Be kind. Be kind to everybody. Be kind to yourself. Let's go change the world with kindness, baby. Have the greatest day. Thanks again for tuning in.
Peace out.